You're listening to the SITREP Podcast, your home for everything related to historical wargaming. When one man picked up a weapon and battled another, we're going to talk about it. We might even play the battle ourselves, or we just might make fun of each other, but we are entertaining. And now, joining us from merry old England is Gaz, our resident painter, and Ralph, our graphic artist. And of course, on the good old American side, we have our historical guru, Big Jim Oriskany from sunny Florida. And here in the Midwest, representing the nation's people, dun dun dun, is Marty and G. And now, sit back, get ready, and let's battle. Hello, everybody. This is G, and you are listening to the SITREP Podcast. And as always, we've gotten the crew together, minus one who's on vacation. How dare he be on vacation? But, you know, it happens. The boss, his wife, Donna, makes him do things, and he listens, no matter what he says. But with us today, over on the far Atlantic side, in the land of brews and chips and fish and all that sort of stuff, is Gaz. Hey, Gaz, how's it going?
Good. Got a cup of tea in my hand, a proper brew. So, yeah, I'm happy and ready to go.
All right. And then is Ralph. Ralph, how are you doing today?
I'm all right.
Good, good. And here on the American side, just to keep things even, is Big Jim Oriskany, who is actually, it's a 2-to-1 count, really. He makes up for my shortcomings when it comes to knowledge on the historical matters. Jim, how you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. Happy to be here.
Excellent. And this is G as always, and you're listening to the next episode of Season 5 of the SITREP Podcast, where we talk about anything related to historical wargaming. I am getting messages from Robert, sorry about that. He's trying to message me. And, I'm trying to get him linked in because Robert is joining us to talk about his game, Battlespace. Right, Ralph?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the one that we mentioned. I think we mentioned in the last podcast, and it was the one that Marty and you had to look at on the Thursday show.
Yeah. So Marty,
the one with the AI deck, the cooperative game, which for anybody that's especially currently still in lockdown.
Yep.
Even though lockdown's easing, it's still a nice little game to pick up. We're supporting a small independent game developer. That's what the community and it's all about, really. And he's got a nice little game system out there, so we're going to try and get him on to talk about it.
Yeah, well, so we're just trying to figure out some technical issues with the gentleman, but we'll get him on. And to counter Gaz's cuppa brew of tea, I have good old American black as my soul coffee, or as we like to call it, lifer juice. So all's good in the world today. So, as we wait for our special guest to join us, hopefully he will very shortly, what is going on in the world of gaming today? Well, there's quite a bit going on. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Chris Long. He's been, chugging away at North Hag. He looks like he printed up some other different vehicles. So, it's pretty amazing that he's doing that. And we did an unboxing of the North Hag miniatures on the General Show 2 Thursdays ago. So if you haven't seen that, please make sure you do. And this past Thursday show was kind of a very low-key show. I just did some character creations just to, prove that I actually can do something. So I got Roan done. I think I got Oz and Boone. It took a little bit of a while figuring out the template, but I got it down. Ralph, you kind of be proud of me. I don't know if you got to see that yet or not, but after a while of tripping over my own thumbs, I kind of got it to the point where I could just change the information without having to change the whole field. So it was pretty good. I know Jim was.
I just kept hearing Sergeant Maths all the time, and my maths is better than that, and I'm not ranked, so I feel disgusted at that.
Haven't you ever heard that term, Sergeant Math? That's an American thing.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm not going to say anything else about that.
Well, I can tell you, it's not really a military saying. It's more of a cop saying. We used to make fun of our sergeants at the police department because we were doing, I don't know, some traffic accident or something where you had to do measurements, and we had a sergeant who just started adding up, measurements, and came up with just a way off the wall, answer, and so we just started saying, "What is this sergeant math?" Because he couldn't add for the life, his life. So I think that's where it came from. It wasn't really military sergeants, but it's just now part of my vocabulary. So anytime math gets kind of wonky, we call it sergeant's math. So it's not meant towards you sergeants in the Army. I was one too, but it is what it is. So.
Math is math.
Math is math. Math is good. Physics. I love physics. All right.
So, speaking of character creation as well, there's when the show goes out.
Yeah.
This past weekend, Colin put out a post on Facebook for people getting a few volunteers to try out the new character creation.
He sent me the stuff. Yeah, he already sent me the stuff.
Sangan V2.
Yep. Yeah,
which I'm not. That's all you're going to get from me because we can't speak about it.
Well, I can tell you that's what they did. I sent it. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but did send it to me. So, I've
had a look. I've had a play, and yes, that's all I'll say. Yeah. But so it looks like they're going full steam ahead with V2 of Sangan, which is good.
Yeah.
I think it was due an upgrade. I think it was sort of due a version 2 of it, especially if they want to sort of, and I don't know, Colin's thinking about this, whether he wants to bring it in line with like Ultra Combat Modern and Ultra Combat Normandy, sort of having that uniformed.
I hope not. The only reason I say that is because I think it would lose what makes Skirmish, its own thing and, its charm, if you will.
Yeah, it is. But I can still see them having the two distinct sort of things.
Yeah.
There's two distinct, you've got the Sangan creation, which is for small unit, and then you've got the unit creation for Ultra Combat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've got a suspicion you could, if you were clever enough games master, if you had a GM for the game, you could have it so that you have the large-scale battles, as an example, yeah?
Yeah.
So you have, say, 30 or 40 troops charging into a village and stuff like that. And then the following week, you could break it down where a small unit, under the Sangan rules, is gone off to do a scouting mission and then bring it back, so you're using both systems within a campaign.
Wouldn't that get a little confusing, though, do you think?
Possibly, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what it gets there because. So it is one of those things. So, all right. Well, we'll wait. I'm still trying to get him. We're working on it, guys. We're working on it. Jim, what did you think of the character creation the other night? You were awfully quiet. Were you deep in thought about how ridiculously frustrating it was watching me navigate Photoshop?
I am well versed in. I should say, I'm. I was with you in spirit. I know how painful a Photoshop stream can be when you're doing it live.
Yeah.
But yeah, you made some great progress.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a nice little video.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know it wasn't the most exciting or fun one, but it gives you a little peek into the world of what goes on behind the scenes to create the end game. Literally. So I will get the rest of them finished.
We had either unit creation or scenario creation or even map creation, building creation, like asset creation videos in Photoshop for SITREP podcast before. They've never been like our top performers, either on Facebook or YouTube, but they do okay.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, people like to see, how we like build some of the maps that we use, how we build some of the units and things like that. So this, Skirmish Sengen is literally just, kind of the same thing, just clicking the echelon scale of the game down one more notch. I mean, it's practically a role-playing game from what I could see. You have to roll up stats and, balance out your characters and so on before you go into combat. I've never played Skirmish Sengen myself yet, but that's what it seemed to me in your Thursday video. Yeah,
it's very RPG. I don't want to say RPG heavy, but it's definitely, got a foundation into RPGs as well as classic wargaming, miniature wargaming, which I like because, again, as I said in the past, it gives you the sense of connection with your team, your guys on the battlefield. Instead of it just being, I'm just going to throw out a game, bolt action. Let's just say bolt action. When you put your guys on the table in bolt action, it's a unit. Right? It's a squad, a platoon, whatever size you're using. And, while our dear friend Andy used to name all his pieces, most people don't. So you don't really have that connection with that game. Whereas in Skirmish, you're naming them, you're rolling for their abilities. Some of it's kind of easy to do because you're not really rolling for a lot of stuff, but and then you're spending points to upgrades and do some other things. So there is some RPG-ish to it. So it gives you a little bit more of a connection to the game, which I like. Like I said, Ralph mentioned that they sent out some character creation. We'll call it the alpha testing, if you will, for a second edition Skirmish. So they sent me a copy of it, so I have to go through it and try it out. But Skirmish, I think is the right rule set for what we're doing, because the reason for deciding on Skirmish versus, say, Spectre Operations, and they're both grand sets, is that with Skirmish, you get that sense of your character. And also, we want people to feel that attachment to characters while they're watching the gameplay in action. So there's that emotional attachment, and that draws you in, and you want to see the conclusion. You want to see what happens to these people, versus it just being figures you're pushing around on a table. So that's one of the reasons why we went with that rule set, was to give people that connection. It just seemed to fit the scenarios that we're looking at much more appropriately than some of the other ones. So that's how I feel about it. And, we have that transit game to come up soon. And, and there's this trash-talking Brit who thinks he's going to wipe the table off of all the GRS operators. We'll see what happens. We'll see. So.
Well, what can I say? That's the plan anyway.
That would make the preparation for the main miniature game a lot easier if it miniature game never actually happens.
All that work and no one comes to the party.
So for people in our audience who may be new, we're talking about the 13 days to 13 hours project, where we're going to recreate some of the events of the night of 11 to 12 September 2012. The incident that took place in Benghazi with members of GRS versus various Libyan militia groups in that city. So we're going to have a transit game, large scale. The map's about 1.5 miles wide, where we're trying to get some of our American GRS private military contractors from the CIA annex to the actual embassy support compound that's currently under attack by Libyan militia forces. So it's like a big slice of downtown Benghazi. We're going to see how many of our operators can get there, and more importantly, when they can get there. Because again, the Libyan militia attack on the embassy compound is already in progress.
Right.
And then the idea of our project is that once that game is play tested, we have it all sanded off, and then we run it a couple of times, and then we run it once live, for real. We're going to use the results of that game to influence the start conditions of the main miniature 28 millimeter game that you guys are hosting up there in Chicago.
Exactly. So one will affect the start of the second one. So if in theory, if the whole GRS team gets wiped out in the transit game, there's no miniatures game, theoretically.
Yeah, it's theoretically possible. Yeah, it's within the realm of mathematics. Yeah, well, I mean, one RPG or IED in the wrong place, and if everyone's still in their vehicles, and if the vehicles are too close together, it is technically possible.
Yeah. And that would really frustrate. really frustrate some other people, So.
No, looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, Robert keeps sending me this link for the CID, CDD, whatever. Skype does not know what the heck he's talking about. So I don't know what to tell this young man. We'll just have to bring him into another show in a couple of weeks once we can get him figured out. So, yeah, so, the transit game, Jim's put a lot of work into it. It looks good from what I watched on the videos of the creation of it. It'll be interesting to see what assets make it to the compound. We still have to talk about the way I looked at it when we started discussing this way back when is that do we hold to the timeline in reality where the GRS guys were held at the compound? But based on what information we were able to determine, it wasn't that huge of a gap versus what it made it seem like in the movie, right, Jim? It wasn't like an hour or something, right? It was only like 5-10 minutes.
And I were looking through the redacted whatever the government has released. Again, this is very, very recent.
The Senate committee report.
Yeah, as far as we can tell, it was like 35 minutes.
Oh, it was 35 minutes. Okay.
Now, of course, 35 minutes is an eternity in combat.
Oh, heck yeah.
35 seconds is an eternity in combat.
Right.
So it's definitely enough to make a difference. I can say that the transit game is clocked so that the draw conditions, the line between Libyan victory and American victory or whatever, militia victory and GRS victory.
Yeah.
Because there are Libyans on the American side, so I shouldn't just say Libyans versus Americans.
Yeah, 13 Fed.
But the line between these two forces, as far as who wins and who loses, is based on, from what I can tell, the 7 minutes it did take them to cover the 1.55 miles, or whatever it was, to get from one point to the other.
Yeah.
That's if you take the same route that they took. One of the things we try to do in the transit game is to offer more than one route. So otherwise, it would literally just be like a Shoots and Niners game. It would be like or Monopoly, where there's only one way to go around the table, and it just depends on what you land on. What happens to you? Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to, IED jail or whatever. We didn't want that. So the game is going to present different options. Some routes are going to take longer, but they're safer. Some routes are going to be a lot faster, but they're more risky. Some routes are just going to be longer, but the roads are better, and so on and so forth. So that's part of how the transit game is going to work.
And so that will affect how we do in that is what will affect, if we can reach the ambassador alive or dead. Can we retrieve his remains if, unfortunately we don't make it in time to save him, versus them being taken through the streets of Benghazi and then ending up in some hospital somewhere and the whole propaganda mess behind that. So,
whether or not who wins the transit game, it's not going to be like, run up the Stars and Stripes, the GRS has won, or,
right.
Set the Stars and Stripes on fire, we've lost. It's like, okay, you guys reached there with 5 out of 6 of the GRS operators still unwounded. You reached there on turn 8, so the percentile chance of Ambassador Stevens still being okay is now this instead of that, and the amount of Libyan militia attacking the compound because you got there 1 minute later than you did historically is this instead of that.
Right.
Also, you reached the back gate instead of the front gate, so on the table you enter from this side of the table instead of that side of the table. At the end of the day, all the transit game is really supposed to do is set up the start conditions for the main game up there in Chicago in 28 millimeter.
Yeah.
Jay, I've managed to get Robert.
Oh, you did?
To join the call.
Robert, you there?
I'm just calling him now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's joined. Robert, are you there? There he is. Robert, we can't hear you. Have you got yourself muted?
I got myself muted.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Hello there, Robert.
Great.
So
in on the call now. We're actually live on the show now. Welcome.
Well, happy to be on.
Good. So why don't you introduce yourself and your game for those who will be listening to this podcast, and give them a background on it, and you saw that Marty and I reviewed it the other night on the Thursday night show, but we wanted to get you on and get the creator's point of view. And, this is your chance to really sell that game.
All right, here we go. Again, thank you guys for having me on. Huge honor. So my name is Robert Salters, like you saw on the cover of the book. I'm somewhat of a new designer. I've been gaming for years now. Started back in the day with a good game of Hero Quest, like many people out there. But instantly fell in love with the hobby and just immediately started just writing my own homebrew rule sets and just picking up different games. Wargaming kind of came into the spectrum a little later for me. I think with my first game being, it was one of those HeroClix-based games with Mech Warrior, I believe it was called.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of how I got started with like tabletop wargaming. From there, again, just kind of trying my hand at writing my versions of rules. Maybe about 2, maybe even 3 years ago now, I started to write a simple rule set that was called Heroes Among Us. And that was just a very simplistic superhero skirmish game. And after releasing it on Wargaming Vault, I got some pretty good feedback. And I said, okay, I think I might be able to take a good hand at this and give it a solid shot. And so I think a year after that, we started working on Battlespace. And Battlespace had actually come up from me designing another game as well called Fireteam Echo 1. And that's kind of really where it all started. That was a really elaborate game. And I think it took about, we had been working on it for about a year. And we had been playing, what was the name of that game? We've been playing Heroes of Tyrannoff, and that's a card-based game, one night. And we thought, man, it'd be really cool if this was had a military veneer on it, instead of fantasy. And so we kind of just took what we were doing with Echo 1, and we kind of started developing just faster play mechanics. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how Battlespace came about. We really wanted to make a game that you could kind of set up and get running maybe after one read through. I've got this big pet peeve to where if a book is 40, 60 pages, I'm just kind of like, oh man, it's just so much work to learn those rules and then building your army and stuff. So I really wanted to kind of pull away from that, which I know that's kind of like the industry standard. We just wanted to do something completely different. And again, that's where the implementation of the soldier cards and the SITREP cards and everything come into play. And we just felt like that was just a really good way to be able to get your army figured out, set up into the table just really quickly. Sure. I have a 15-year-old daughter, believe it or not, and she does not like tabletop skirmish games. You put a board game in front of her and she'll play it all day. But when we were going through the play testing process with Battlespace, she was like, Dad, I can really get with this because, this is quick for me to kind of learn and play. Uh-huh. So, yeah, that's really kind of how it got going and kind of to bring us to where we are now, really.
Okay. So what made you decide on ultra modern genre versus other genres that are out there for the background for your game?
Really, because just knowing, a little background on me, I work for a private security company. So a lot of my coworkers are retired law enforcement, retired military. And so I'm kind of in that ethos of protective services and knowing, your guys from active duty or just retiring from active duty. And so it was more so just natural for me to kind of gravitate to a modern setting. Though I do love World War II and a lot of history. Mm-hmm. It's just with modern, we felt like it would kind of open doors up for us to be in a ring where there aren't a lot of games. I know there's Spectre and Ultra Modern Normandy and stuff like that. There's a few out there, but we felt like there was just more space for us there in the modern setting versus World War II or prior.
Awesome. No, that makes sense. You know, it is a growing field, and the more games and rules that we can have, the better for the growth of modern. So what makes your game stand out from the other games? Everybody wants to know what it is that makes your game stand out.
Okay, again, so what we feel like makes Battlespace so much different from your typical games that are out now is just that ease of play. The rule book isn't thick at all, you know, so you can make it through it in one sitting in most cases. And the rules are very easy for you to grasp. With the way the combat system works, where you're essentially just rolling that one die, that D20, from the perspective of your soldiers. That's another simplistic way to implement combat. So now I'm not looking for the stats for each individual enemy and trying to figure out what kind of and in some cases when you're setting up the game, you know, I don't have to spend so much time figuring out my enemy. You know, they're just going to be like shooting fish in a barrel, you know. So I don't want to put so much time into building that list of my opposition when the game's primarily focused on my soldiers. And when you're playing games, you're focused on your soldiers and wanting to put time into developing them. So again, with the card system, basically being able to create a fire team very quickly. You know, in a smaller game, you can just do your 4 soldiers, and you've got your enemy element cards already ready for you to go. So
very
ease
cool.
of play.
And so you saw our show the other night. So the main standout or takeaway I got from it is it's really designed for solo play. You know, with the AI deck, which I know as I read from a lot of the different gaming groups on Facebook and other areas, a lot of people, especially in these days and times right now, find it difficult to get an opponent to play a game. So I think your game coming out at the right time, you know, unfortunately, you know, due to what's going on in the world. But so it's very interesting that you have the AI decks, and Marty can't say enough of it. And I wish Marty was here because I know he had a lot of questions for you. But he's on vacation. So so the other thing I have to ask is it scalable? So you're playing it at 28 mil, I understand. Does it scale up and down?
Yeah, so as far as model scale, you're speaking on model scale, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So you can easily play with 28 mil. Obviously, when we were play testing the game and going through the design process, we played with 20 mil, and in between making it, I just started playing with 20 mil, 1/72 scale. And it's, you know, for the price, you know, you're getting, like, in certain cases from certain companies, you're getting about 30 to 40 models for about $14 US. And I couldn't beat that. So I was like, well, let's make sure it can work with 28 as well as 20. And those two scales work perfectly. I've got a guy that messaged me the other day from the Battlespace community page on Facebook, saying that he wanted to try the game out in 15 mil. And so what he did was print the maneuver card out at, I think, 75%, and it worked perfectly for him. So you can do 15 mil if you scale down the card slightly. And I'm pretty sure you can go up to 32 mil without any awkwardness going on with the game. So I think you can cover your general scale that most people play in.
Okay. And model count wise, where do you see the sweet spot, and what is the smallest number, and what's the largest number of model count you think plays well with your game?
Okay, so you're going to have your 4 soldiers off the bat, you know. Typically we say have your 4 soldiers and have anywhere from 12 to 15 enemy combatants, and you should be good to go there. Now you could play with, if you had less, like say you're between 8 and 10 models for your enemy, your enemy, I think you could still pull it off as long as you're getting them off the board quickly. But I think you should be very comfortable with about in that 12 to 15 model count for your enemies, and then your 4 player characters or soldiers.
Okay. All right. So, other than that, terrain density. Is your game really killy? So you need a lot of, a line of sight terrain to, obstruct line of sights. Or is it? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I interrupt you. Okay. So I think terrain makes every game so much more fun. But because there is no maximum range, I think a player putting out a good amount of terrain will only benefit you, and I think it'll make the game more strategic with your maneuvering and stuff. Because you can be on one edge of the board and you can fire at something at the other edge. We felt like that would be more realistic than putting, certain barriers up to range. And obviously, if you get within the area of the maneuver card, you're at point blank range, which deals a second wound if you hit. So, more terrain is always good. I've got one mission in the book, I believe it's mission 3, where you're actually not supposed to use a lot of terrain. And just kind of, I think your main cover is the Hummer that your fire team is traveling in.
Okay.
So you've kind of got that cover, and obviously it's your game, so you put out whatever other cover you want. But we usually tell people to fill your table up, just to make the game more dynamic.
Okay. So what's the ideal playing space size? So is it 2x2, 4x4, 4x6, 4x8?
We generally play on a 3x3, and that's what I tell most people is a 3x3 is a good size, depending on if you're going to be at 28 mil, even 20 mil is a 3x3 is a good size. 2x2, the gentleman that played 15 mil, he used the 2x2. On the 2 YouTube videos we made, I played on a 2x2, or one I played on 2x2, excuse me. Just to kind of give you an overview of the game. A 2x2 definitely works, and I think even in the book we mentioned 2x2. A 2x2 will or can be a harder game because the enemy can cover that distance so much quicker to get to you guys. So ideally, I think a 3x3 is going to serve you better for a nice, full, robust game, that you can put down enough cover, terrain, and, have objectives not right there in your face.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So where do you see your game going from here? What direction or growth do you see for your game?
All right. So hopefully, Chris doesn't get me for this one. So we've been talking with Chris Birch from Modiphius. And so we are planning right now a deluxe edition for Battlespace. So we're currently putting all of our energy into that. The game's not going to change drastically. We're just going to tighten up some of the rules, going to update the artwork, and going to release some more nations and enemy opposition along with that release. As long as everything goes as planned, I think that it will. I can't really put a time frame on it, but that's where the game is headed right now, is for the foreseeable future. Beyond that, we'd like to maybe do a different time period. So maybe World War II, maybe.
Awesome. So you're going to be working with Modiphius. Chris is a great guy. I know him. So, he's a really nice guy, and he really puts a lot of energy into his projects. So, and he's done an amazing job with Fallout and the Star Trek role-playing series. So, you're in good company.
Yeah, when we first released the Heroes Among Us, he contacted me and, gave me a lot of great pointers, and I felt like he took me under his wing after that. And he was looking at Echo One, and we did some videos just for him to kind of show him gameplay of that. And when Battlespace came out, he reached out to me again and he said, "Hey, Robert, and he kind of told me a few things and sent me like about 4 pages of questions, kind of saying, hey, let's just kind of get through some of this stuff. And as long as everything goes as planned, let's see what we can do in the future." So
nice.
Yeah. Great guy. He's a really great guy.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing more content and where you head in the future with your game. I know Marty and I are planning to do a Thursday night show where we actually run through a scenario as one of our shows. So definitely you want to get that on the table.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you heard, we have a little gaming weekend in February. And, if you want to talk about possibility of showcasing your game at that weekend, we could always do that as well. So we can talk about that offline later.
Great.
So, guys, you've been awfully quiet. Does anybody else have any questions or comments out there? Hello, is this mic on?
I was letting you talk there, Jake. So it's probably just easier for Robert to have one voice answering questions that have been inundated with 12 billion. I'm on the group. I'm on the community group, the Battlespace community group, and it seems like the community has, shall we say, taken it to heart, because I've noticed on there's a guy playing with Star Wars miniatures.
Yeah, saw that.
Which I thought was quite interesting. I'm the one that's posted up the stuff about an idea for doing World War II. I'm Ralph, by the way, off the group as well. So, my thing is do you see, as you said, in the deluxe edition, you're going to add more units and possibly more nations, yeah? Do you see beyond that as well doing things like an expansion book or a campaign book with more missions and things? Is that something that you're thinking about for the future as well? And doing different sort of areas of battle and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. So one project that we were working on for Battlespace, and it's due to come out, hopefully we can have it ready by Monday, it's the Navy SEALs. We just got finished. We were play testing and stuff. We wanted to make sure some things were coming out right. So this expansion will have the Navy SEALs. It'll come with, I think it's about 4 new SITREP cards. It's going to come with a new enemy element, which is the Ubuntu Militia. And you're going to get some more equipment cards. And along with all that stuff, it's a short campaign. It's 5 to 6 missions, depending on how it plays out. And it's more of a narrative. So you're kind of going after a bad guy we named the Butcher. So you're kind of chasing him down. So it's going to take you through a few different locations.
That sounds really good, that actually. You need a K9 unit, by the way, Robert.
Well,
you need a firm missile.
What's that? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You need a firm missile. That's what you need. You need a firm missile.
I saw someone on the Facebook page make a custom K9 card, so we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So we want to reach out to that gentleman and see if we could use his name as the dog's name and kind of as a tribute to him. So
yeah, that sounds really interesting. That actually as well, especially. I guess the Navy SEALs, even though they're one of the many units, I think, from a gamer's point of view that are quickly identifiable. It's been like in the UK, SAS or SBS. It's like, yes, there are special forces. The SEALs are the ones that pop up, I think, across all nations that, there's a TV series about them and things like that. So I think that sounds really interesting, especially a narrative campaign, because I think we all in this little podcast like narrative campaigns. Mm-hmm. I play Spectre a lot, and I don't go off what Stephen and Matt did originally, which was having the point system. Mm-hmm. I prefer building a game and playing with players where we've got a solid narrative behind it, because it makes it more fun. We want to be in a hobby that tells a story. And I think a narrative tell great stories, and especially in the current climate where that you can play solo. And that's one of the things that drew me straight to Battlespace when I saw it, which it's great. I've got your other games as well. I do have heroes, and I have the villains as well, which I thought was an interesting twist. Yeah, on it because you don't often see games where it's everybody plays the heroes, but the villains one is where you can play the villains, and because it's models agnostic, you can pick up the stuff that FFG have done with the Avengers and all of the other ones and play together. You can do whatever you want with them, which I think is a great system. And anything, like I said, anything with narrative, anything like that, and especially solo play at the moment, I think is great. I think you've done a really, really good job in what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the kind words, and thank you for picking up Heroes Among Us as well.
Awesome.
I was really happy that you brought a civilian element into the game. Obviously, that was a conscious choice. Is that something that you're looking to expand on in the future? Because having served in theatres as well, it's always the atmospherics and the environment that are sort of your first indicators, especially in small teams.
Yeah. We do want to include your NPCs or your civilians more into the missions. One bit of feedback we got from a YouTuber, and I won't bring up their name or anything, is that they felt like they didn't want things to get too realistic, so we didn't necessarily want to put, civilians in harm's way exactly. So we want to soften the tone just a bit and, make it your game to where, if you want to put civilians in the line of fire, that's totally up to you. But we wanted to tread carefully, especially in today's environment, with opposition kind of going after just kind of your civilians in the board or on the board. Now, with certain missions in the book, you'll see that they're rescue missions. We feel like that's a little different because you're kind of going in with that objective to rescue civilians. So it's something we just want to be very careful. And Chris had reached out to me about being careful about displaying certain things in the book. So we want to make sure we are respectful to everyone. So we do want you guys to enjoy the book and the game and have that bit of civilian element incorporated into your games. But just from our standpoint, we just want to, again, just be careful on what we put or what we display to you guys or what we put in the book for you to do. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it being ultra modern, the immersion level for certain veterans has got to be balanced out carefully like you are doing. I think it's great that you're taking that on board. And again, community feedback is always useful to take on and take away what you can from it. And if you've had some feedback in relation to that, it's great to hear that, you're listening to the community, and that shows you as a company doing a great job in not only providing an initial product, but developing it in a way that is careful towards the community members that could be affected by it, which is fantastic. Great to hear that, buddy. I really like the idea of how you engage with small teams versus obviously what is normally a militia or a sort of a loose number of enemies. Have you ever tried it with a peer enemy to see how they face off as two peer groups?
We've not so far. That's something for us to try. I'm sure it will work. We may have to tweak some things. I'm going to leave that up to the community to try out and give their feedback. So yeah, we've got
a bit of legwork.
But we're probably going to end up trying that tonight now, just because you.
I think one very important thing I definitely want to get in during this is where can people pick up Battlespace?
Yeah,
wargamevault.com.
100%. Yeah, and I believe it's on a discount at the minute, so it's a good time to get in as well.
Yeah, we want to make sure we keep that discounted. So it's at $9 right now. We want to keep that $9 the price point, for now. And then when this deluxe edition comes out, we want to, I need to definitely say this, when the deluxe edition comes out, and again, I've got to speak to Chris about this and, given everything goes as planned, we want to make sure that anyone that's picked up the book from War Game Vault will get some sort of discount if they pick up the deluxe edition. We want to make sure we honor you guys in that way.
Is it going to be a... Sorry, guys. Is the deluxe going to be a print and play like the current one is? Or are you looking to do a actual physical book that people can purchase?
So that depends on you guys. That depends on if you guys want it bad enough and just voice to Chris and the guys, the people at Modiphius that, hey, we want this to be a physical book. See, I'm going to put some urgency there. So yeah, Chris is definitely going to be a PDF, obviously, underneath Modiphius. Mm-hmm. But if we want that physical book, we're really going to need just the community to just scream out for it. So it's really want it and tell them that that's what you guys want. And so I'm pretty sure Chris will grant that. So we'll make that happen.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Excellent.
Anybody else?
Hello, Robert. My name is James. How you doing?
Hey, James. How's it going, man?
All righty. So to add, commentary and questions and so on, I was definitely very interested to hear about the concept of unlimited range. That's something that we talk about often here on SITREP, is how a lot of games tend to have some strange ideas about how range should be handled in games. The bullets fly 12, 24, 36 inches, and then they fall out of the sky for some reason. So definitely, that sounds like a very good, a very realistic aspect to your design. And also very interested to hear about what you're saying about terrain, about how it's not really required in the game, if I understand correctly, but it's usually considered a pretty good idea to pile as much terrain as possible. Well, not as much as possible, but a good amount of terrain on the table. Yeah, I found that pretty interesting, given the increasing predominance of urban combat in modern warfare. Mm-hmm. And I was also interested to hear you talk about 2x2 being kind of sometimes too close for a 20 or 28 millimeter game. I would definitely agree with that. How that tends to make it difficult for first world forces or tier 1 forces. Usually in most modern or even semi-modern settings, the better side qualitatively likes to engage at distance. Yeah. And I was also very interested to hear about the veterans' perspective. I mean, we're just about all veterans here, or even active service here on the SITREP podcast. And as far as rescuing civilians, or balancing respect versus realism, that's something that we get some pushback as well once in a while here. You can obviously add to this. I find that with civilians in a war game, it's often a measure of what you, as the free world player or the first world player or regular forces player, can't do, as opposed to what the enemy is tasked to do. Like, is the OPFOR really going after civilians? Usually the OPFOR is drawn from the local civilians, so they're not really going to do that. However, they will use them as moving terrain, if that's not too callous a way to put it. They'll use them as almost like human shields or something. They'll take a certain building that's got civilians in it, and then they'll occupy that building knowing that you, as the free world player, can't get after them. Is that something that your games maybe sometimes incorporates, or a viable tactic for the AI deck, or anything like that?
Again, I feel like it does to an extent, because the civilians react to you or to your soldiers the first time they come in clear line of sight. And what we wanted to portray was, instead of having that civilian do the same thing every single time, you kind of roll on a chart, and they're going to either run from you, they're going to come give you some intel, or whatever the case may be. But in most firefights, you see civilians kind of running for cover, honestly. And if the ones that are, true civilians and just, innocent bystanders, when it's a situation where you've got a sympathizer, we'll call them, they may go and seek out your opposition and let them know you're in the area. I'm pretty sure you say you guys are all active duty or retired. So I'm sure you guys know that better than anyone. And that was one of the things that came up when I was speaking to some of the guys at where I worked, and my brother. So my brother's Mickey, who's doing the illustrations for the deluxe edition. He served with the U.S. Army for several years, and that was one of the things that he kind of weighed in on, was just the reaction to civilians in a combat situation. So we wanted to respect. We wanted to respect that dynamic, but at the same time, I'll still have that real world representation.
It's a tough balance.
It really is. It really is.
I mean, on the one hand, you need your game to be realistic or whatever. On the other hand, we said this before on the podcast. War is one of the most horrible things in the world. So you don't want it to be too realistic, because it is a war game. You want it to be fun. So.
Which is why our enemies don't run up to the civilians and the standard civilians that are just kind of placed on the board. They don't run up to them. They really don't interact with them, but they will shoot through them if they have to. So
right, but then that same options are not afforded to like pre-world players is what I've seen in some of these games like this. Like they're not allowed to occupy the same egg, so they're not allowed to be in base-to-base contact with civilians or whatever, whereas the other side has no rules in that regard. And just that extra little bit of freedom, especially with more and more combat in the modern setting taking place in an urban setting, civilians are unfortunately always going to be around. As the free or the first world player, trained player, regular forces player, you never really know which civilians are really civilians, which civilians are insurgents. Just they haven't actually shot at you yet. That's a tough thing to try to model in a game. So definitely. Good on your game to, on the one hand, try to model it, but on the other hand, try not to get overboard with it, so where the game becomes, uncomfortable or unpleasant.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we really just want you to have a fun game that you can enjoy. Again, that's quick to get rolling with. Once you go through the rule book. So
cool, great, sounds great.
All right, guys.
I did find that watching through your YouTube video that you did on the, I think it was the 2x2 actually on that one. I'm not really sure of the scale looking down at it. But having watched through that, just an initial run through, coming to the rules after that was obviously very easy to already pick up about the numbering system for if I can hit him and if he can hit me. It's lovely. It's straightforward. I'm only looking at one number. I'm not looking at enemy forces cards. I'm literally looking at my guy, what he can and can't do based all on that single card. I think that's exactly what you were looking for. You hit the nail right on the head by achieving what is a complex, strategic stroke tactical game system, but a compact, streamlined rule system.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You've done a very good job of that.
Are you planning on doing something where people can customize their soldiers in some way from the stats and stuff? Is that something that's on the roadmap, shall we say, of looking ahead?
I think it's definitely something we need to look at. And someone had mentioned that once before. If we release blank stat cards, and I know with the book you get, I think it's 2 blank enemy cards where you can make your own. We definitely want to make it available. We've got a system that we work off of now for developing the soldiers as far as if they have a specialty, where to rank that and how that will build out the rest of the characters as far as their accuracy and whatnot. So I think we're going to make that available in the deluxe edition, just so you guys can have that option, because there's so many nations out there, and we want to make soldier cards for all of them, and not have anyone feel left out. So I think if you guys can, if we give you guys the tools to make your own, if you SAS or whatnot, until we can actually make a true copy of it or a true representation of it. We're going to do that. We're going to give you guys the tools that you need to make the soldiers you want.
That's great.
That's cool. Do you find yourself wary of using real world scenarios for missions?
I think it just really depends on the scenario. We want to do everything with respect to the armed forces and those situations they were in. So we originally, when we're taking these missions and we're coming up with the scenarios and whatnot, we want to look at the outcome. Was this a situation where the team was lost, or that these guys fight through it and show true valor? And those are the missions that we want to take from. No one wants to think about the accounts of an Apache or something going down and losing an entire crew. But that situation that happens, and a rescue team is deployed to find any survivors and stuff like that. So it's really a double-edged sword there, honestly. We just want to make sure we do everything tastefully and respecting our soldiers. So
yeah, it's very cool.
G, you've got anything else?
I'm pretty much got my checklist all done. So, yeah, I went down my checklist. So, Robert, let us follow up with you in a couple months. Hopefully, you'll have some more updates, or you can follow up with us if you get more updates from Modiphius. And yeah, we can go from there. And let's talk here in the near future about our gaming weekend. Let's see if we can get your game on the table as well. Is there any plans to? I know right now it's on Wargamers Vault and print and play. Do you think there might at some point come a professional printed option? I haven't even looked at the Wargamers. Do you have the print option on the Vault where you can order the print, where they'll print it for you?
Yeah, so that was actually once we released the game and it started doing really good. That was like the first thing we said we needed to do. We were like, okay, we need to get this print on demand.
Yeah.
And then we were given the opportunity to make the deluxe edition. And so the crossroad that we're at right now is, do we go ahead and make these cards print on demand? No.
Yeah.
The deluxe edition, we may change. We're not going to change anything drastically again, but maybe some artwork may change, and we don't want anyone to feel like their copy's obsolete.
Oh wait, like a certain game company that puts out new rules every 2 to 3 years, and
no comment. I've got a few of those boxes sitting around.
I still have the 8th edition still in the box. No, I get you. That's respectable. So, all right. Well, we'll just keep our eyes on it. And like I said, look for our playthrough video here on a general show on a Thursday night here, hopefully next couple weeks. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you guys again. And I want to go ahead and I want to send you guys a copy of the new stuff, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, please.
Maybe you guys can do your playthrough with that if you're comfortable with it.
That's fine.
So it's up to you, though.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, we obviously want to use whatever the most updated version is, so most definitely.
Well, this will be the Navy SEALs,
okay,
and the Element. So
why is it always got to be Navy SEALs? Does nobody like the Army anymore? It's always Navy SEAls. Navy
so
SEAls
you'll still have the same rules right now and everything. So.
That sounds good. Yeah. Why don't we do that, and then we'll use those. I have some guys around here that could be Navy SEAls. Yeah, I got some around here somewhere. We can do it.
You have some Navy SEAls, haven't you? I think you've got. Didn't you get Tim's Navy SEAls? Haven't you got the boat sitting there, Jay? Still paying?
Oh, the SBS guys. Hey, my boat.
You've already started painting. I don't want to mess. I don't want to throw a wrench in your plan.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's a running joke.
It's a running joke. Ralph's making fun of me because I did get an SBS boat, a fast boat squadron from Footsore Miniatures, and I built it, painted it, and my dog ate it. So it's now going to be a great terrain piece. So
it's a crashed boat now, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, we can resalvage it. Okay. Yeah, Robert, let's do that, and we'll showcase the most updated stuff for you. So, why don't we do that?
Can I get one more word in? If you don't
course
mind?
You can.
And hopefully this is okay with you guys. But for the deluxe edition, we are currently looking for a company that has models that they would like to have illustrated in the book for photography reasons, for photography for the book. So if anyone's a modeler, or if they got their own line of
I can give you two names
pictures.
right off the top of my head. Why don't you reach out to Tim Spakowski? How do you say it, Ralph?
Tim Spakowski, Footsore Miniatures US.
Yeah, Footsore Miniatures US. He's very open to doing a lot of cross promotion, so you might want to reach out to Footsore US, North America. Okay. Tim is his name, and he listens to this show, so I will send him a heads up as well. So he
maybe Spectre as well for the UK.
Possibly
but
Spectre,
I'm not too sure how Stephen and Jess are doing.
That, or our friend Alex. Alex at Full Battle Rattle as well. So there's several. Yeah, I would definitely reach out to Tim and since he's U.S. side, it might make it a little easier for you, and see what he can do for you.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
All right.
What we'll do is we'll send you some things through the Facebook message that you sent with some names and stuff. It's probably easier that way because you might, being on the spot trying to remember and write things down and stuff. So it might be easier if we just send you some stuff. But we'll do that for you, definitely.
That'd be great. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been an honor and enjoyed being on. And I've watched the show several times. So
thank you.
This is great.
All right. So everybody out there listening, it's Robert with his game, Battlespace, and we will be following him, in the next few months. And make sure you check out. Do you have a Facebook page and a website, or just a Facebook page?
It's just the Facebook page right now. So it's a Battlespace community group. So.
All right, so there, and if you are interested in getting your hands on the rules, make sure you go over to Wargamer Vault, and you'll be able to pick up the rules there. They're still on sale, so make sure you jump on it as soon as you can and start playing, and let us know. Post pictures on not only the his page, but on the SITREP page, and let us know how it goes. And then, again, watch for a future episode. Probably not this coming Thursday, but possibly the following Thursday. We'll get the playtest in, and we'll go from there. So, again, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. You enjoy your Saturday, and, stay cool, because you're in South Carolina, right? So I know how hot and humid it can be there.
Yeah, I was going to say staying cool. That's not a possibility here.
I spent many years at Fort Bragg, just up the road from you. So I know how it can be in the summer. So.
Brutal.
All right. Well, thank you, and take care.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, guys. What did you think?
Yeah, I love I love the game. I think it's great, especially in this climate, with the fact that it does allow for solo play. But the other thing as well, which is really interesting, it's not just solo play, is if you've got 2 or 3 people with you, you could do it as a cooperative game. Each person taking one soldier. So you have that element of communicating to each other.
Yeah, most definitely.
And thinking on the fly from a small unit point of view, saying, well, I'm going to go over here. If you go over there, you can cover it. And, so you can bring those elements of working together on the table to defeat the mission.
Yeah. One thing
I also like,
go
you
ahead.
don't really need a gaming board for it. You can literally just do kitchen table, dining table, the side in the kitchen. It's such a nice base level of a 4-man team facing a larger group of sort of lesser trained soldiers that you can even do it on an abnormal space almost. You could do it on an L shape. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
You could find a reason to play it anywhere. And the fact it's all self-contained, you print it off, you just go. The SITREP cards keep coming out when you do your failures to roll.
Hey, I think we should get a royalty for that. I'm serious.
Yeah, good luck. I think the royalty is he's sending us a free copy of the
right.
You're getting the frogmen early. What can you say?
Right.
So yeah, I think it's I think it's almost not even been. It's still having its potential tapped, by its community.
Yeah.
I think the potential to be in a shipyard and the play area be a ship where the frogmen are coming up the anchor chain and they're taking out sentries and they're trying to get to sabotage something within the ship. It's such a nice step-off point with an AI system that means you don't have to be competitive with somebody else. You can just let the game play itself and you play who you control.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it leads me to...
It is. It's really, really nice and just compact. And, as I said, a lot of us, we're still in lockdown. We're still not able to do that, to get into gaming groups, because some gaming groups aren't available at the moment, and not having to play something online, because the vast majority of the gaming, is either moved to Tabletop Simulator or other things where you can actually physically set up something and physically touch the miniatures and move them, and brings that feeling that we get of moving our tiny fighting men around the table.
Yep. One thing I just thought of is, I wonder if, say you wanted to play it in a tournament style, could you have a game referee do the AI portion, and then the players do that, and you could
do timed You could do it instead of, say, your traditional, VVV. You could have a timer and say, right, you've got, say, if you complete this in 15 minutes, you get so many points. If you complete in 20 minutes, you get so many points. So I think you could use it for a mini tournament. So you have, say, 4 or 5 tables. You would have to have lots of tables, but however many players, and you could either have a referee moving around groups of them, or
you don't need the referee though, do you? Because that's part of it. Is having the card and having you put the 1 or 2 against the model that's the model in play, and then what happens is around it and based off the SITREP card. So I think a referee would almost complicate it, because the referee won't be rolling any dice. He won't be moving any miniatures. He's literally not really doing anything. The II is quite robust.
Yeah.
It could be that, like you say, timed to achieve certain goals, or have a number of objectives on a board, and you make a decision on when you pull out to keep your team alive. You might go, okay, well, I'll pull out now because I've got all 4 guys are still alive. I did 2 of the 5 objectives, and I reckon people will push further, get wiped out, and then they'll have no objectives. Mm-hmm. You could almost do a risk versus reward system for it.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So I think it's got legs to be at a tournament, but it's such an interesting that you won't be playing another person. It'll be about how you interact with your own team. Mm-hmm. That's definitely something I think they'll be thinking about.
Very cool. All right. Let's change gears a little bit. And anything news-wise anybody wants to talk about? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Have you got any, Ralph, before
I'll let you go first, because I've sort of looked, but I couldn't say anything. But there probably is stuff that's popped up that's sort of missed.
Just a couple of bits, yeah. I mean, one of them is something that's already out. The Team Yankee United States. They're now what was in the original box set is now been broken down. You can get the platoons. Mm-hmm. So you can get yourself the Abrams tank platoon, the RDF-LT assault gun platoon, and what's the last one? The LAV air defense one as well. Yeah. So they're in and around now in their own box sets. So if you want to bring some specific firepower to your table, you no longer need to go to the starter set. You can start breaking it down to the individual boxes. The interesting thing with the Abrams is that, you've got multiple setups on the Abrams. You've got the M1, the IPM1, the M1A1, and the M1A1HC, and the 2 gun variants, the 105mm and the 120. Mm-hmm. So on the other ones, they're kind of what you expect. The assault gun being the 75mm Ares gun. That one's an interesting pack. It's a mix of metal and plastic rather than all plastic.
Oh, really?
That was something I noticed when I was looking into it. The Abrams themselves being all plastic, but these ones, I'm presuming they've either got latent stock, or it was something that they planned early days, or it just, to hit the manufacturer numbers with COVID, maybe, what manufacturers to hit timelines, maybe they've had to either compromise or not. I'm not sure. But yes, it's so you've got all those 3. The last one having a lovely Gatling cannon along with some Stinger missiles on it. So even though it's a bit of a lightweight, it's not when it hits you. Yeah. So those are Lynx aircraft and Hind gunships. Better keep their eyes open on the way in. All right. Perry Miniatures, they've released some cavalry for the War of the Triple Alliance. So to cover a bit more of the historical, that's South America, 1864 to 1870. So you've got cavalry for Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil. Some really nice models, and something I think that you, without a lot of work, you could probably have a look at them, maybe for the Alamo. Really? Because, yes, there's 40 years difference, but a lot of them are just wielding swords. When it comes to the cavalry, it's like lancers and swordsmen more than it is some form of mounted riflemen. So they might be worth a look to see how different the uniforms are and such.
That's very interesting that they chose. It just shows you what, Perrys are able to do. Because honestly, I would never thought of that conflict. To be honest with you, I didn't even know about that conflict until you just mentioned it. So
that is a huge one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. It is probably one of the bloodiest battles ever fought in the Western Hemisphere. Or the bloodiest wars. It's definitely the bloodiest war ever fought in South America or Latin America. It was a bad one. And I think it's great that Perry Miniatures has decided to feature it, because wars fought in Latin America, all in another period, all the revolutions and all the wars and all the overthrows, staged by guys like Simon Bolivar, and then of course all the wars in the East, like all the wars in Japan and China. These are areas that are critically and almost criminally underrepresented in media in general, but especially tabletop gaming. So whenever a company does anything to go into one of these lesser exposed or lesser explored areas of history, I think it's great. But yeah, that Triple Alliance War, man, that was a rough one, especially for Paraguay, which again, they kind of started it, or at least, made it as bad as it could have been. But they basically took on, Uruguay. What were the nations again? Argentina and Brazil. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil were the three.
Okay, well, that's Paraguay, but then they're fighting three, and then I think Uruguay was the third one. There's one nation taking on three others, and it's the casualty ratings are almost difficult to believe. It's like, I need to look that up on another source. No, that was true. Holy crap. Yeah, that's definitely a bad one. It takes place like right after the American Civil War. In fact, I think it started while the American Civil War was still in progress.
1864 it kicked off, Jim.
Yeah, so American Civil War was still hot and heavy.
Yeah.
I think it extends to like 1870 or something like that, 1869.
Yeah. 1870, yeah.
Okay, cool. Like Bolivar often gets overshadowed by Napoleonics. Obviously, Triple Alliance always gets overwhelmed by American Civil War. But yeah, it's. I mean, whether or not you buy the miniatures, I'm sure the miniatures are great. But check out any kind of quick article you can find about that conflict, because it's a big one and it's one that doesn't get nearly enough attention.
That's interesting.
One thing I really like about it is visually, the forces are very strong in color. The blues, the greens. Mm-hmm. So as a eye-catching table, if you even just laid out like a Waterloo fight or a portion of Waterloo, the visual richness of the models' color schemes makes it so inviting to look at. I'm thinking of picking up just some to paint the odd one, just to throw some paint at them, because
it's so refreshing.
They're really nice. Yeah.
So it's not olive, drab, and tan?
Gray, brown. Hey, look, more brown. Then there's green, and then exciting new shades of brown. It's tan. Whoa, khaki. Slow down. We're getting crazy with tan now. Okay.
Hey, there's a little black. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. I totally agree about that.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. Futsal Miniatures North America have released the Russian Gaz Tiger M. along with some fun turret options, which has a number of turret options on it. And they've also just brought out some modern winter and some frogmen, strangely enough, which is what made me think of him earlier today when he said the seals were out.
Yeah.
So frogmen still in scuba gear. So they've still got all the gear on.
Those ones are the pulp range. There is, shall we say, homage to a 1980s cartoon series.
Yeah.
But
really? Definitely something that you could roll in. Yeah. The kit and equipment's there, and the weapon systems are there in metal. So they look like a bit of fun that you could generate some good games from for any form of modern, like you say, 80s. One of my favorites that I saw this last week, and it's the last one on my list, is White Dragon Miniatures, who do the British that I brought over for UG. Yeah. They've just released the British Army Mastiff 2, which is an absolute beast of a heavy patrol vehicle. It's based on the US Cougar. So it's a 6-wheeler, 7-ton, 8 patrolmen, 2 up front. What to call it? Armored truck, like you would see in the films, but bigger. Comes with all the RPG caging on it to limit the impact damage of the RPGs. It also comes with a few options for up top. It's got a 7.62 GPMG, 12.7 7mm heavy machine gun option, or the 40mm grenade launcher gun, which I know will be right up G's alley for laying down the good news. Baby.
Lots of thunka.
Yeah, I think it was one of our first ones to have the unidirectional, I think it's called Dyleema armor, which was a really thin layer, lightweight armor that's designed to deal and redirect mine and IED explosions. I remember the original one being very tough in theater in Afghanistan, to the point where it took a very long time. We were talking, real stacked anti-tank stuff for any of them to actually cause deaths within it. Casualties, yes, but not deaths.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of an icon for me, so it really resonated with me, and I know it will for a lot of people that play British Modern. I can see that selling very well.
So I wanted to ask, because I'm a little confused. I know the Cougar, when it originally rolled out with U.S. forces in Iraq, that was one of its big selling points, is that it provides all this additional anti-mine protection or whatever. But it's not the same thing as the MRAP, right? The MRAP is something that comes along later that's like the same concept vehicle but built larger, or am I mistaken about that?
It's going to be difficult without literally doing a side-by-side visual, I think, Jim.
Okay, yeah.
To understand what the differences are, yeah. Okay. I know that it had, obviously, it was based on the Cougar, and that might have been, I don't know if that was from design or if that was from physical chassis. I don't know if they took a rolling chassis of the Cougar and then built on it, or if they literally went, that's what we want for the British Army. Can you design us our version? And then the company went away and did that. I'm not 100%. So I don't want to give disinformation. All I remember it being when it came in, the number one was a bit underpowered for its, I think it's like 7-8 tons. And it was pushing out late 200s or early 300 horse from shaft. So it was a little underpowered, and that was something they corrected with the Mastiff 2 that came out after. They bumped up its armour a bit, put in I'm trying to remember the name of the plate, the stuff that was sort of directional. I can't remember the exact name. I think it's Dyneema, or I think it's based around the name of the company rather than an actual. So it was. I just remember unidirectional. It was like some form of material used for improving protection, but it did make them so robust to IEDs that the guys were hitting them and then getting out the back.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Absolutely. A beast of a machine. Like I'm sure every country that served over there had to develop that heavy patrol vehicle at the end of the day, didn't they? Because they were taking so much IED damage. Yeah. But like I say, White Dragon Miniatures do some really nice stuff. They do the quad bikes. I think they've got the Fox. Is it the Foxhound or is it the
Foxhound on there?
The Foxhound.
As well. Yeah.
So and they've also at Salute they had some of the Israeli stuff from the 70s, I want to say, early 80s. So if they're sort of doing that in the background, yes, they probably would have featured at Salute this year, but Salute next year should be fun times for some new stuff from them as well.
But it's really something. They were talking about early Merkavas, right?
Yeah, there's a 28 mil as well, 28 mil scale Merkava.
A 28 Merkava, good grief, that's going to be half your tape.
It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Really nice kit.
Merkava's one of those tanks, man, that's just... some people say it's the best tank in the world. I strongly disagree. It's the best tank in the world for Israel. I think it would be a disaster in other theaters, but it definitely has that distinctive look.
The armor.
And, it would have been early 80s. I think the early 105 armed Merkavas were in Lebanon in 82. And then they went on from there. And there's four main variants of the Merkava now that go all the way up to the usual smoothbore 120s. But, yeah, they're still using it, so it obviously works for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the White Dragon as well as they have, as well as having the British forces for that, they have got the Afghanis
Taliban.
As well,
yeah.
Taliban stuff. And what's interesting is their Taliban sets as well are a bit like the way Empress did it, so you get the standard foot guys, but you guys on bikes and stuff like that as well.
Mopeds. I think there's a Duster in there, a heavy machine gun as well. Yeah, some cheeky stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some really nice, and they're all slightly
heroic.
Yes, they're heroic scale miniatures, so they're quite nice. What's interesting about the Mastiff as well is I was looking at the information on the website is you're getting the 3 different helmet sets because they do the 3 different British types of helmet for the miniatures.
Yeah, they do Para,
the Para,
and standard Mark 6 or 7, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing the same for the crew.
That's very cool.
So you can tie your gun crew up to the same, if you've used the same helmet across all your force, so to give it that same uniformed look.
Yeah, I know a lot of lads
crews and stuff like that.
A lot of lads were really happy with the fact they can do the paratroopers, which I'm sure G gives a double thumbs up when you can do more paratroopers and make them look like paratroopers.
That's right.
Yeah, they've got the.
G didn't like the paratroopers she came up against last Sunday, but I'll leave that for another segment of the show.
What?
Hey, she's not finished with them yet.
That's right.
No.
Jim, is that right? Is there something?
That is very true.
The rematch, not the rematch. Sorry, the second half.
The continuation. The exciting conclusion.
So there is a couple of other things as well, which I'll add onto the news as well from Gaz. Is I think it was this past week, or it might have been earlier the week before, was Footsore did a live stream on Facebook.
Yeah.
So they were talking about the different elements within the Footsore that's coming in, and it's been put on the Footsore page that Footsore US miniatures, so the moderns, are coming to the UK, and they're going to be branded under Footsore Modern.
Yep.
So they're getting ready they just need to get the finalised shots. So they're talking about could be early July, but probably early August, maybe. We will be able to order, in the UK, we'll be able to order the Footsore Modern Rangers, or what's available initially. No. Which is good, actually. So, from a UK point of view, it's nice ordering direct from Tim, but,
sorry, guys,
postage is a little bit, so we'll be able to order them direct from Footsore UK and get them.
Yep.
Within that. And just a sort of general news is I'd recommend, if anybody's not watched it, watch the new Tom Hanks movie.
Greyhound?
If you've got an Apple TV Plus.
Greyhound, is it?
Greyhound. Very good. It's basically the story behind the Greyhound runs from America to the UK during World War II and the wolf packs hunting them. So it's sea battle and stuff. So it's the Battle of the North Atlantic.
Sweet.
And it's really good. It's very well put together. It's written by Tom Hanks as well. He actually wrote it because he's going back into World War II supposedly with Band of Brothers as well. They're busy looking at, shall we say, continuing that story.
Band of Brothers.
Yeah. So, but it's really worth watching Greyhound. So
Very
if you
cool.
do have an Apple TV Plus, you get to watch it for free.
All right. Cool. A couple of things that come to mind, Jim. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Marines giving up their tanks. What's your opinion on that one?
Yeah, I've heard that from some people.
The last M1 rolled out of camp, but somewhere in California. 29 Palms?
Pendleton.
I think it was Pendleton or 29 Palms.
Yeah, Pendleton, yeah.
Oh, okay. So how do you feel about the Marines giving up tanks?
It doesn't bother me at all.
No?
I'm not entirely sure what the Corps was doing with those tanks post 2003 in the first place.
Okay.
So if they can just get rid of the friggin' Osprey now, or at least get it where it stops crashing. I'm serious, man. That thing has killed more Marines than Mount Suribachi. The Corps I've been reading about, they've been ditching a lot of gear that doesn't fit for them. So the Corps is not the Army. And I think that's probably the only thing that the Corps and the Army is ever going to agree on, is that one is not the other and the other is not the one. So the Marine Corps has a very specific mission profile that's always evolving and always changing. And they are very adamant in making sure that they have the right gear for that mission. They don't care about what's fashionable. They don't care about what other forces are using, or what other branches of the military are using. So they are going to use, unless it happens to work for them. A good example are the Cobra versus the Apache, or like the LAV versus the Bradley, or things like that. The Marines have to be a lot more strategically mobile than the Army does, so weight is always a problem. If it doesn't fit on a plane that we have available, or that the Corps still has available, or if it doesn't fit in the amphibious warfare ships, it's no use to them. So a lot of decisions that people have been making vis-a-vis the Abrams over the last 20 years, nobody listens to me, but I don't agree with. That tank has been getting heavier and heavier and slower and less and less effective ever since they continue to bolt on the Tusk kit and the heavy uranium armor kit and this and that and the other thing. One of the things that made the Abrams good was it was always kind of heavy, but it was very fast, at least. It's not so fast anymore. They need to put that tank back on a diet. I think the Marine Corps finally got around and looked around and they said, you know what, this isn't working for us. the logistics chain for the Abrams is absolutely insane. Yes, the Abrams is the best tank in the world if you can afford it. Dollar for dollar, it's not the best tank in the world, but pound for pound, it is. But that's only if you can afford it. And not only the cost of the tank, but the cost of its first echelon maintenance, second echelon maintenance, third, fourth, fifth, sixth echelon maintenance. I mean, this is a high maintenance girlfriend. Is the Abrams. Mm-hmm. When she's with you, you're going to be the talk of the town. But I tell you what, plan on spending a lot of money and plan on putting up with a lot of drama. It's probably the most fun way I can put that. So my guess is, again, no one in the Marine Corps actually, I'm not exactly, in there with the Joint Chiefs or anything by any stretch of the imagination. But just as an external observer. Yeah, I don't think the Abrams is worth it anymore for the Marine Corps' global power projection mission or whatever, as far as what their mission is. First to go, last to know, kind of a thing.
Right.
You're not going to be the first anywhere globally if you're going with the Abrams, because the Abrams requires such a huge pile of really any main battle tank, but of all the main battle tanks of the world, like the current, like I think it's 5th generation main battle tanks, not the Abrams, man, because every Abrams crew, first of all, the Abrams is going to cost you $10 to $11 million. It's going to cost you another couple $1 million in training just to put the crew of 4 men in there. And then what you're putting in behind it, for every 4 men in one Abrams, you've got another 100 people behind it. Fuel trucks. The thing drinks fuel like a Scotsman on a Friday night. I mean, it's insane the amount of fuel that thing takes up. It's maintenance. It's repair costs. It's the effort and capital that goes into maintaining it. The Marine Corps has always had to stretch a dollar. For every dollar the Army gets, the Marines get a dime. So when it comes to, fulfilling the mission with available resources, they got to cut where they got to cut. They're cutting a lot of stuff. They're cutting, I read an article just the other day, they're cutting one of their big mortar systems, their 120 millimeter mortar systems, along with the 2 different types of trucks that they had to buy. You had to have a certain truck to tow the mortar and a certain type of truck to tow the ammunition trailer that went with the truck. Why can't you tow them both with the same truck? This is the kind of stuff the Corps doesn't put up with. So yeah, they're retiring a lot of stuff. It just doesn't work for them on a, on that global level. The Marines have to. The basic posture of the Corps is that they have to be ready to be pretty much anywhere in the world. The president picks up a phone and says, "I need something here." And you have to Google search the friggin' country before you find out where the hell it is. And the Marines have to be there within 24 hours. You can't do that with an Abrams. So I'm only assuming that that's going to feed into their decision to ditch the Abrams, along with, like I said, a lot of other weapon systems that just aren't working for them anymore.
Well, it's changing battlefield, and it's time to update and realign and look at what works, what doesn't, what's necessary, what isn't, in the modern battlefield. So I mean, in reality, you need boots on the ground to hold territory. And how do you get them there quickly and efficiently? And, if the motto, of Marines is to be that rapid strike force, you can't do it if you're weighed down with heavy machinery. So,
I'm not saying that the Americans that the United States should get rid of the Abrams.
Oh, no.
I think the Army should definitely keep the Abrams. People have been saying the first major tank action was in 1916, and the first cry that the tank was obsolete came, I think, sometime in early 1917. And people have been saying that ever since, and they're always wrong. So as far as whether or not we should get rid of the Abrams in general, no, I just think the Marine Corps should sort of get out of the business of trying to do the Army's job. The Army should try to get out of doing the business of the Marines' job. And they're 2 separate forces. They need to do their own thing. They're obviously much better at doing their own jobs. We kid around a lot, but let's face it, the Army or I should say the Marine Corps is never going to be big enough to do what the Army does.
Yeah.
I would never want to take a Marine Corps force up against like a modern Russian, Guards Armored Division. That's just not the job that the Marine Corps is supposed to do. That's the Army's job. That's why we have an Army. But then again, can the Army do some of the things that the Marines can do? Yes, an Army soldier can jump out of a boat and run up on a beach. We proved that at Normandy. But that's not, there's a little bit more to the Marine Corps than just amphibious warfare.
Yeah.
So it's about, what is your mandate as far as, the Corps' mandate versus the Army's mandate versus the Navy, the Air Force? What is your mandate? What is your global mission? And what tools do you need to do that mission? And do you have any tools in your force right now that you don't really need, especially given the enormous investment that comes with it? Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, the Abrams, the best tank in the world. No disrespect to the Chieftain, or I'm sorry, to the Challenger or to the Leopard or anything else, but that's only because they spend the money on it. So dollar for dollar, the Abrams is nowhere close. I will take if I had like $10 million, like if you're going to game, and your game is based on not scenario points or some other abstract nonsense, whatever, but real dollars. Okay, you get $40 million to build your battalion. You get $40 million to build your battalion. I'm building with Leopard 2s because you're going to have 5 Abrams, and I'm going to have 12 Leopard 2s, and 12 Leopard 2s will have 5 Abrams for breakfast. But tank for tank, pound for pound, Abrams is best, but only because of that cost, and that cost is what probably makes it prohibitive for the Marine Corps, moving forward into the 21st century.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. That's a good way of looking at it. Oh, very good. Awesome. All right. Gaz, do you have an idea what you're going to be doing on your next painting show?
It's a toss-up at the moment between Sergeant SITREP and a 251 Hanomag.
Oh, interesting options. I take it you got your STL file working?
Yep, that's all good. Good. What I did do was I've got my films through now as well.
Okay.
So I'm just going to get that fitted up and get one printed off.
Excellent.
And we'll see how he looks. And if I'm happy, he'll go on.
All right.
And if not, then the Hanomag will step in while I get the print to how I want it to be.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I'll have a play. I want to make sure it's a good quality print because I want to put some real time into it.
Very nice. Very nice. Excellent. Jim, you've got tomorrow you're facing an opponent to end that little Russian...
Tomorrow I'm being polite and letting someone who's already lost the game to go ahead and kind of finish up or whatever. It's all about having fun, and you never want to have your opponent feel bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so... but no, in all seriousness, we're going to wrap up and finish our Prokhorovka game, largest tank clash in history, July 12th, 1943. We did the anniversary of it last Sunday, which was, July 12th.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to go ahead and finish it up tomorrow.
Uh-huh. And I kind of disappointed you. I didn't have a big old tank battle right off the bat. I just spread my forces like little mice and had them running around the corners. So.
No, you struck into a void. You attacked the flank, which is great.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're setting up those demo games in a Twitch stream or a live stream or whatever on SITREP Podcast, I'm like, okay, I don't want this game to get too boring or whatever, so I'm going to, have the scenario designed in a certain expected way where there are great big fire exchanges like as soon as possible. That didn't happen this time, which is totally fine. I think our stream was a lot more interesting. It may not have been as fiery or as violent or as, immediately action-packed or whatever as, I was expecting. But it's definitely a lot more interesting now because it's not, like you said, it's not just this collision of armor in the middle of a field.
Yep. So
there was definitely a lot more shit talking at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, make sure, obviously this will go out after that. So make sure you catch that video if you have not seen them. But, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Ralph, do you have some news you want to share with everybody?
Well, I'm stepping away for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be stepping away for a little bit. Just other things have come up and I need to concentrate on that. So I will be pulling back a little bit. I'm still around if people have got any questions. I'll be on the Facebook and stuff, but I'm not going to be, shall we say, commentating as much.
Gotcha.
As what we were doing, and I've passed all the graphics over to Jay and stuff, so if graphics need to be updated, they've got the templates and everything, so everything's set ready, so I can take a little bit of a break and concentrate on something else that needs to be sorted.
Well, we appreciate your time with us, and you're welcome back whenever you feel you're ready, and if not, understandable, and good luck to you. And I know you're not totally disappearing, but you've been part of this podcast since almost the beginning, so we want to make sure that we let you know we appreciate you. And
Well, I can always pop on if need be. If you get guests on, I'm always happy to speak to people.
Thank you, Ralph. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. It's been fun.
Yep. So, guys, we're going to leave it at that unless anybody has any final thoughts or comments.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Next Sunday, when you can't sit down because I've kicked your American ass all over the battlefield.
What? Oh, next Sunday is what? The SITREP Cup. I totally forgot about it.
That is true. Liberty or death, God save the king. Here we come.
You can forget the liberty bit.
It's already started.
Oh, mate, it's well on. I am so excited. I'm going to be. Jim has kindly held back the rules till the last minute, so I've got less of a chance. I think that was a tactical ploy by the.
I haven't seen the rules either, so Hey, Gaz, I'll make sure I send you the recipe for good old fashioned sweet tea, just so you can have yourself a nice big tall glass.
I'll go into one of the shops that does American goods and see if I can find a genuine one that's been shipped in, just in case. Amazon.
So you gotta drink that sweet tea there and saying America and all that stuff.
Well, the good thing is I won't have to do it, so that's not a problem. So Jim's kindly sent me over the rules.
Wait a minute, you got the rules
this week off to study up.
What? I don't have the rules.
All right, seriously, guys. This is Battlefield Revolution. We have about 7 hours of it on our YouTube channel. So Dylan has play tested it twice on YouTube. So we have live demo games.
Yep.
The rules have not actually been written. However, all the charts that you need are all the bullet lists and the turn sequences and reference materials are all in that spreadsheet. I can send over a copy of the spreadsheet I just sent to Gaz. He got it in about 10 minutes before we started.
If you would be so kind, sir.
Come on. I thought I was going to pay you in, Iraqi 1990 tanks or something. So that you got it.
Bribery. See, those Brits, they'll do anything to win.
Yeah, well, it's all about being the winner at the end of the day when it's a SITREP Cup, baby.
Damn, I better start printing the cup today.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we got to start advertising that. People are going to want to watch the SITREP Cup. All right. Okay, yeah. So that's next weekend. I totally thought it's next weekend. It's next weekend. Holy cow. Okay. Well, I know what I'm doing next weekend. All right, guys. With that in mind, does anybody have any final thoughts? If not, we're going to close out the show. No, I
would say a final thing. If you've not tried Battlespace, there's some videos on YouTube. Check out the Wargame Vault if you want to buy it, and hit up their Facebook page if you want more information. The guy's done a really good job.
Yep, most definitely. And make sure you check out Tuesday night's Brew and View with Gaz, because at the time of this airing, the next show will be coming out that following Tuesday. And make sure you catch up on Jim's Sunday Gaming. And actually, the SITREP Cup will be the day after this comes out. So make sure you catch with us on all our media channels, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. If you do not have not already done so, please like, subscribe, comment, share, bells, all that good stuff. And I just checked our Facebook page, Jim, just so you to know, we're at 391 followers as of this morning of the recording. So we have definitely grown. I did not check YouTube.
320 on Facebook. On YouTube.
Wow. All right.
We continue to grow there. We're picking up at least a couple a day.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, guys. And remember, we also have some prizes that we're giving away as well, right? So make sure you're commenting on those too. All right. So, guys, we're going to close out the show on that. We appreciate everything you've done. Ralph, good luck. Thank you. Hope to see you around soon. And to Gaz and Jim, thank you as always. And this is G for the SITREP podcast, and we will see you on the next one.